Hey everybody, I want to go over the different types of CSS selectors real quick. So hopefully you've read about them already. There are three types, right? There is the tag selector, class selector, and ID selector. I'm going to add internal style sheets just so you can see them on the same page. Again, hopefully you've read about how to add inline, external, and internal style sheets. Okay, so first of all, there are three paragraph elements in the document and one heading, and you can see the output here. So I've got a heading element and three paragraphs. So let's start with, what if I wanted to change all of the paragraphs? So I can use a tag selector, and a tag selector is really easy. I'll put a comment here. Notice inside of the style attributes, this would be a CSS comment. So tag selector is just going to use the tag name, and we include all of the CSS properties in open and close curly brace. So I'll just change the color to blue. And if we flip over to the HTML, you can see now all the paragraphs are blue. So what's happening is it's looking at anything with the tag name of paragraph. Let's also change the font family. With font family, it has a comma separated list. So what's going to happen is the browser is going to try to find this font. If it has that font installed, it'll use it. If not, it'll try the next font and so on. Just go through the list. Okay, what if we want to do change just a couple of elements on the page? Let me put in a footer. Oops. So let's say we wanted to change just the last paragraph and the footer. So we can use what's called a class selector. So I'm calling the class footer. We start class selectors with a dot in the CSS. So now I'm going to go down into the paragraph, and I'm going to add an attribute to the tag. This is class equals footer. So notice the syntax. It's inside of the open tag. So we've got our lesson sign and our tag name, a single space, the word class. Notice there are no spaces between the class attribute, the equal sign, and the double quotes around the value. So we'll say footer, and let's just change it to red. And let's change it to bold as well. Now with class selector, you can have multiple elements on the page with that class. So if we wanted to, we can also change the second to last paragraph. Okay, a third type of selector is the ID selector. Let me just label this really quick. Class or class name selector. Okay, so the third one is ID selector. And with ID selector, we're only going to have one element on the page with this value. So this is a pretty common thing where maybe from our JavaScript we want to change one single element on the page, or we're actually labeling something that might have a value we might change while the user is using the page. So we're going to give it an ID selector. The way we call out an ID selector inside of CSS is with a pound sign or a hashtag. So we'll say, we'll create one for author. So I'll just put another paragraph here, and this time instead of class, we're going to say ID equals author. So let's just change it to green. and actually let's just do that for now. Okay, so we've got hashtag author, which refers to ID. Remember, we were only going to have one element on the page with ID typically. So if we refresh it, there's the ID selector. So take a look at some web pages that you've already created, or go grab a web page that's already created out there and see if you can apply styles using these three different types of selectors. Again, the tag selector is going to change every tag on the page. The class selector, start it with a dot, and then you're going to add this class attribute, and the ID selector, which starts with the hashtag. And again, you're going to look for that ID attribute inside the paragraph elements on your page. Thanks.